On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 took off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, heading to Beijing, China, 239 people on board, a completely normal route that planes fly every single day. 38 minutes into the flight, the plane vanished. Not crashed, not exploded, vanished. Off radar, off radio, off every system designed to track a commercial aircraft in the sky. And to this day, despite one of the largest, most expensive search operations in aviation history, nobody knows exactly what happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Let's go through what we actually know, because the known facts alone are strange enough. The last normal communication from the cockpit came at 1:19 in the morning, a routine handoff between air traffic control zones. The pilot said calmly, something like "good night," signing off normally, standard stuff, nothing unusual in his voice. A few minutes later, the plane's transponder, the device that broadcasts the aircraft's identity and location to air traffic control, switched off. Right around the same time, a separate system called ACARS, which automatically sends data about the plane's engines and systems back to the airline, also stopped transmitting. Two separate systems, disabled close together. Both systems require deliberate action to turn off. They don't just fail on their own without a serious problem with the entire electrical system, and even then it's unusual for both to go dark in that exact window. And then, instead of continuing toward Beijing, the plane turned. It changed direction, flying back across Malaysia, then out over the Andaman Sea, completely off its planned route, with no radio contact and no transponder telling anyone exactly where it was. Military radar, different from the civilian radar that lost the plane, actually picked up an unidentified aircraft flying this unusual path. Nobody connected the dots in real time. By the time anyone realized that unidentified blip might be MH370, the plane was long gone from that location. Here's where the story gets even stranger. Even after the transponder and ACARS went dark, the plane's satellite communication system kept sending small automatic signals, basically a still here handshake, to a satellite every hour for several more hours. These pings didn't carry location data directly, but using the timing and angle of the signals, investigators were able to calculate a series of arcs the plane must have been somewhere along. Based on this satellite data, investigators determined the plane flew for roughly 7 hours after losing contact, far longer than it would take to reach Beijing and in a direction that led away from it entirely. The most likely path, according to the analysis, pointed south, deep into the Indian Ocean, far from any normal flight route, far from land, far from anywhere a plane should reasonably be. 7 hours of flight after every tracking system had gone dark, someone or something kept that plane in the air for hours, heading toward one of the most remote stretches of ocean on the planet. The search that followed was massive. Multiple countries, ships, planes, underwater drones, sonar equipment scanning the ocean floor across an area larger than some entire countries. It became the most expensive search operation in aviation history, and after years of searching, it was eventually suspended without finding the main wreckage of the plane. But here's the part that makes this case different from most disappearances. Pieces of the plane did eventually turn up. Years later, fragments of debris, confirmed through serial numbers and material analysis to be from MH370, washed up on beaches and shorelines thousands of kilometers away, on islands off the coast of Africa, and on the African coast itself. The ocean currents in that region, when modeled backward, were consistent with debris originating from the search area in the Indian Ocean. So we know the plane crashed into the ocean somewhere in that region. We have actual physical proof of that. What we still don't have is the answer to the question everyone actually wants answered. Why did it happen? There's no shortage of theories, and none of them are fully proven. Some investigators have focused on the possibility of deliberate action by someone in the cockpit, pointing to the fact that the turn away from the flight path appears to have been a controlled, deliberate maneuver, rather than the kind of chaotic movement you'd expect from a sudden mechanical failure or fire. Flight simulator software found on the captain's home computer, including a route into the southern Indian Ocean, has been cited as a piece of circumstantial evidence worth investigating, though it has never been treated as conclusive proof of anything. Other theories focus on mechanical failure, a fire, a depressurization event, some catastrophic problem that incapacitated the crew and passengers, while the plane continued flying on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and went down. This would explain the long, steady flight path without requiring anyone to be actively controlling the plane for those final hours. There are less mainstream theories too, hijacking scenarios, mechanical sabotage, more elaborate explanations involving multiple parties. None of them have been backed by the kind of solid evidence that would let investigators close the case, and that's really the core of why this case still gets talked about more than a decade later. It's not that there's no evidence at all. There's actually a fair amount: the satellite data, the debris, the radar tracks. It's that the evidence we do have answers some questions and creates new ones at the same time. We know roughly where it ended up. We don't know who was in control during those 7 hours, or why the plane turned away from its route in the first place, or what happened in that cockpit in the critical minutes when the systems went dark. 239 people got on a plane expecting to land in Beijing a few hours later. Families were waiting at the airport with signs and flowers, watching an arrival board that just kept saying delayed long after anyone in charge actually knew what was happening. For most of them, there was never a body to bury, never a clear answer about those final hours. Just years of debris washing up on faraway beaches, fragment by fragment, confirming that the plane went down somewhere in that vast stretch of ocean, without ever fully confirming why. Modern aircraft are tracked constantly, monitored by multiple overlapping systems, watched by satellites and radar and radio all at once. And still, in 2014, a plane carrying 239 people disappeared for 7 hours, in a way that has never been fully explained. In an age where almost nothing gets lost anymore, somehow this did. Haas,